Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. Got another Master Duel video for you. Today, we're going to be doing another tier list. This time, we're taking into account two new factors. The first is the latest results of the World Championship qualifier. Now that they've been out for quite some time, we've had a lot of time to look at the top 100 deck list. We can think about how the meta has changed. A bit of a disclaimer though, that I want to give on top of that is that the results of the World Championship qualifiers do not one-to-one reflect what Master Duel Rank Ladder is like. Although, of course, it is the same standard format in terms of ban list, what decks do well in that kind of environment is very different from regular Ranked Ladder. This tier list is going to keep regular Ranked Ladder more in mind, so that way it's more applicable to those of you watching. The other thing we're going to be keeping in mind is, of course, the latest ban list, which does mostly just affect one deck that we'll definitely be talking about once we get to it. Wherever it is, here we go. But yeah, we'll definitely be taking that into account as we rank these decks as well. So let's not waste any more time and get right on into it. Right up top, we have Sky Striker, which I think, at least for the time being, I'm going to put in the Tier 1 category. There's a couple of reasons for this, actually. One is the fact that Sky Striker has a lot of really good matchups in the current metagame, of course, most notably against Cooltoon. I've said it before, but I'll say it again. Sky Striker not only has a lot of ability to push through what Cooltoon can set up, and, you know, Cooltoon, a lot of its disruptions are like using Mix or Rekko to pop monsters or spell trap cards, but, you know, between your ability to chain, like, Raise Effect or to chain your Sky Striker quick play spells, a lot of those don't have as much use. Most importantly, though, is the fact that when they look at your hand with something like the Rotary, then all they're going to see is stuff like Engage, Upstart Goblin, Radiant Typhoon, Vision, these cards that just draw and search other things, so they don't actually end up gaining any real knowledge at the end of the day, right? All in all, it's not just the fact that Sky Striker has good matchups in the meta, but also just how strong it is as a deck. Definitely not just from its own latest wave of support like A0, but these new quick play spells that are being released like Fallen and the Virtuous, Radiant Typhoon Visions as mentioned, and when Forbidden Crown comes out, another good generic quick play spell, Sky Striker will make great use of that too. I think it'll be a little bit lower on Tier 1, but all in all, I think Sky Striker is definitely deserving of that Tier 1 spot. Blue Eyes, I'm going to continue to put in Tier 3. It's probably going to end up lower down. It really is bordering on Rogue at this point, and as I mentioned before, despite the fact that Blue Eyes does get follow-up support in the Overframe collection, it's not really super great for the Blue Eyes deck. It's, like, okay, but not what it needed to stay meta-relevant in terms of, like, Tier 1 and 2. So, Blue Eyes is going to sit down here in Tier 3. Now, Enacraft, I'm a little tempted to put it in Tier 3 as well, but I think I might actually put it in Rogue. It's difficult to say because Enacraft didn't really have much of a showing at all in the latest Duelist Cup. Granted, of course, we're thinking about more than just the Duelist Cup meta, or WCQ rather, but the thing is that Enacraft is really just a very coin-flippy deck, right? If it goes first, it can often be very difficult to beat. But if it goes second, it really, really struggles to break just about any board or push through, you know, any meaningful number of disruptions. And that's really what holds Enacraft back, I think, more than anything else. It is a fine deck, don't get me wrong, it is quite powerful. I think all 20 of these decks, as well as many more that aren't featured here, could definitely do well in a, you know, tournament or Reach Master 1. Whatever goal you have in mind, it just, you know, for Rogue decks, obviously takes a little bit more of a dedicated or skilled pilot. But yeah, Enacraft I'll keep down here on Rogue, I think. DDD has actually been seeing a fair amount of play with the new support. I think that I am also going to put in Rogue, maybe even a little bit below Enacraft. It's weird comparing Enacraft in terms of power level to other decks, just because, again, it's so dependent on whether it goes first or second. DDD actually has a bit of an easier time going second, so maybe I'll do it like this, but it's really, really close. Orcust I'll continue to put in Tier 2. Might look a little bit weird because you probably haven't seen Orcust around in quite some time, but, you know, just because a deck isn't played by a lot of people doesn't mean it's not good. And if you look at sheer win percentage rate from the official Master Duel in-game statistics, Orcust is always one of the higher decks up there. Now, granted, of course, it does struggle against, you know, hand traps and disruptions a little bit more than some other meta decks, but that's why I've got it down in Tier 2 as opposed to Tier 1. You know, highest win rate does not automatically mean best deck in the format, right? There's a lot of nuance to a statistic like that, but we'll put Orcust here in Tier 2. I think it's a pretty good spot. I'm actually also going to put Elf Note in tier 2. Surprisingly, did not see any Elf Note at all in the World Championship qualifiers, top 100. Now, I say surprisingly, it does make sense. Obviously, Cool Toon is a way better deck, or maybe debatably was before the new ban list, but we'll see. We'll see where I put that. But yeah, no, it's not just the fact that Cool Toon is better, it's also that Elf Note is a lot more susceptible to the various kinds of disruptions that, you know, a lot of people are attacking for. It's really easy to attack against, I guess is what I'm saying, right? A lot of people are attacking Ghost Spell right now, and that actually does end up being pretty decent against Elf Note. It basically stops Theo Realize as a starter, because then the Medius can't come back from the graveyard. It stops Rhapsidia, it stops Seraphim Strelitzia, and even in later formats in like the OCG where we see Ghost Ogre seeing a lot more play, obviously Ghost Ogre is still going to be great against, you know, a deck like Elf Note, which it, you know, has cards like Welcome Home and again Rhapsidia, these continuous spell and trap cards that it's really relying on to be able to make its plays, as well as their monsters too. It also is a little bit lacking in power level. The end board is like fine, but Elf Note a lot of the time just needs to be paired with something else, whether it's Fiendsmith, or you could play Elf Note Branded, or you could play Elf Note Synchron. But as a pure deck, it struggles without the follow-up Power Patron support as well as June Pride. Once those come out, Elf Note's absolutely going to be a tier 1 deck, but for the time being, I think tier 2 is a pretty good spot for it. Okay, Odeon, I think I'm going to put it in tier 3. Just because I haven't been seeing it put up results as much lately, both in, not just in terms of the WCQ top 100, but also like, even, you know, community tournaments and ranked ladder and stuff. Odeon is kind of falling off a little bit, but I think is still definitely one of the better trap-based decks around. I also don't have a ton of experience playing with or against it, so I could see some people really arguing it for being in tier 2, and I wouldn't argue against that. Depending on how things end up getting placed here, it might end up in tier 2, but we'll see. Magnet Warrior, I'm going to continue to put in tier 2. This is another one where I was a little surprised that it wasn't featured at all in the WCQ top 100, mostly because it has had some pretty good showings leading up to it in the, what do you call it? The Challenger Cups, those ones from Europe. I will say that being a slightly, or at least more than others, synchro-based deck, you know, the Cool Toon level modulation does hurt it. To be fair, that's also probably why Elf Note didn't see a ton of play as well. That, you know, RS changing level by 1, and even worse, back-to-back changing level by 2, really does impede your ability to make, you know, synchro plays. I think I'll put Magnet Warrior, you know, higher than Orcus, but I think it is a tier 2 deck. Okay, Synchron. Synchron has been seeing a little bit more play lately. As mentioned before, and as I featured on the channel, you can play it with Elf Note, and that's pretty good. There was one Synchron FTK deck that also made it to the WCQ Top 100. The other reason I have Synchron on here, though, kind of wanted to talk about, you know, upcoming metas. That Overframe collection is going to be a huge buff for Synchron. Starjunk Synchron is a phenomenal card, and of course Synchro Emergency, letting you make turn 0 plays, is also insane. So Synchron is definitely a rogue deck right now. I'm definitely not going to put it any higher than where it is right now, but just know in the future, I think Synchron does actually creep up back up into like tiered territory. Yummy. Yummy is a deck, an archetype that is near and dear to my heart, but just has not really been putting up too many results lately. For that reason, I'm going to throw it down here in tier 3. I don't have, you know, all the different archetypes, or variants rather, of the archetype split up, so this kind of encapsulates Fiendsmith Yummy, Mitsurugi Yummy, Snake Eye Yummy. I think all of these decks are honestly about equal power level, which is like upper tier 3, I think is a decent spot for it. Okay, Radiant Typhoon. I just gotta put this in tier 1. This deck has really, really shown up, not just in the WCQ event, but also in Challenger Cups, in Deckmaster Cups, in community tournaments, on Ranked Ladder, and Zodiac unbans / unlimits of recent times have actually been a huge buff for this deck.
Everybody has been complaining about like Broad Bowl being back, but Broad Bowl isn't even why Radiant Typhoon is, you know, so good when paired with Zodiac. It's Rat Pierre being at 3. Rat Pierre at 3 is honestly insane for Radiant Typhoon. Eldam and Swen can not only obviously go into your own Radiant Typhoon engine, but before you even do that, you can just go into Invoker, pull Rat Pierre out of the deck, and then add F-Zero and Trident to your end board. You know, when I was first talking about Broad Bowl being unbanned, I was like, is it going to be that good for Radiant Typhoon? Because I got caught up in the same mistake as everybody else. I was only thinking about Broad Bowl and not Rat Pierre. I'm like, is Broad Bowl, you know, being able to search up Swen really that good? But it's like, no, that's not the thing. You want to focus more on Radiant Typhoon being able to add the Zodiac cards to your end board. So that has been a huge buff. And I think that has definitely made Radiant Typhoon Tier 1. It was probably just Tier 1 beforehand. This is an archetype I slightly slept on during the last tier list, but yeah, no, I think it's definitely a Tier 1 deck. Okay, Drake-a-Tail has actually been performing very well. I'm going to put it here a little bit more towards the bottom of Tier 1, but yeah, obviously Branded got its new wave of support, which has been really good, and that's been really, really good to Drake-a-Tail as well. Now, Cool Tune, I do still think is actually a Tier 1 deck. I don't know if it's the best deck moving forward, though. I'm a little tempted to put Radiant Typhoon higher, but I might just leave it... No, you know what? I'm going to do this, because here's the thing, right? I've done a little bit of testing with post-banlist Cool Tune, which you've seen on the channel, and a little bit beyond those games, too. And Rotary to 1, it makes a lot of difference. It really does make a lot of difference, right? If you're like, if you go like normal summon Q and it gets negated, you really just gotta hope you've got that effect Veiler in hand. And don't even get me started about your 1 Rotary getting banished in like the mirror match, you know, or getting put to the bottom of the deck by something like Theo Realize. That it just really does end up making the difference. And not only that, but also there's the overall loss of your third Recco and Mix as well has made Pot of Desires really undesirable, to be honest, in Cool Tune, right? You can't really play it anymore. So now you also have to take the Desires, which is going to further tank your consistency. Something I've noticed a lot while playing the deck. I think that these two decks are really, all of these decks, honestly, in Tier 1 are still really close in power level, but I don't know if Cool Tune is like the best deck in the room anymore. We'll see moving forward. Canine Vanquish Soul, I'm actually going to put in Tier 2. It'll be like the top of Tier 2, but it actually is starting to fall off a little bit here. Not even due to like restrictions placed on the deck. I think it's mostly just kind of the fact that, you know, K9 VS really needs a specific set of cards in hand to be able to pop off, the same way that a lot of other meta decks can do with just one, you know, 1 card starter. So the fact that K9 VS really kind of requires you to have some critical mass of Fire, Dark, and Earth monsters, not just in your deck, but also in your hand, really does kind of hamper it a little bit and has caused it to start to fall off a little bit in the current meta. Lunalight is still performing quite well. I'm going to put it in Tier 2. I'll honestly put it above Orcus because it's a pretty solid deck. Maybe even Magna Warrior? These are about equal, I think. I'll leave it like this. I think that's fine. Yeah, I mean, what can I say? In a best-of-1 format, summoning Liger Dancer is pretty much always going to be good. All right, Exosister with the Carmail. I'm going to continue to put it towards the bottom of Tier 3. I think it's roughly on par with Blue Eyes in terms of power level. I don't think that's completely inapt comparison. Still very solid with the latest wave of support. Mitsurugi. There's obviously a ton of different ways you can play it. Ryzeal Mitsurugi, I think, is still one of the more popular, but you have also been seeing a lot of branded Mitsurugi on Ranked Ladder lately. I think that these variants are pretty close to same power level, so I'm going to drop them here in Tier 2. I think it's pretty comparable to Elf Note. I'll put it a little bit higher because, you know, Mitsurugi, Ryzeal Mitsurugi had at least 1 deck in the WCQ Top 100. I really do think these are pretty much equal, though. That's just kind of the tiebreaker for me there. All right, Malice is still performing pretty well. Maybe like right here. I think that's a good spot for it in Tier 3 there. Tenpai did actually have a smidgen of a featuring in the WCQ, but it was, you know, one of the cases where it was one of a couple of different decks that the duelist who was using it played. So, excuse me. I don't know. I'm kind of comparing Tempai to Inacraft in my head right now, and I think Inacraft might actually be a little bit better. I'll put Tempai down here. And finally, Branded. Branded's a tricky one, because you look at it and you're like, wow, it really underperformed in the World Championship qualifiers. But of course, you got to remember that Branded is a lot more complex of a deck than the World Championship qualifiers. You'll see a lot of people say like, oh, well, of course you wouldn't be on Branded. You want games that offer quick wins. And while, yes, you would like to play a greater quantity of duels, it is really also, honestly, more importantly about quality in those Duelist Cup style events. It's really easy to think like, oh, fast wins, you know, decks that get fast wins are the way to go. But not necessarily the case. As far as post-ban list, Branded is always kind of tricky to put on a tier list, because somebody who's like an expert, you know, using Branded, it's definitely going to be like up here. I think it is just the best deck. But like the average person using Branded, like kind of makes me want to put it more somewhere around here. So let's hedge, split in the middle, and put it like right there. So, excuse me. So this is tricky though. Because it's really easy to look at this tier list and be like, wow, so you think Radiant Typhoon is the best deck in the format? And it's like, it's the most accessible and also strongest tier 1 deck in the format in terms of like its overall power level and how easy it is to play. Dracotale is also not that difficult to play, but I would argue that Radiant Typhoon is a fair bit better than Dracotale. So, but again, if we're talking about like the Branded player being an expert, then yeah, it's definitely going to look like this, right? I do think that while Cool Tune will remain a tier 1 deck, I don't necessarily think it is the best deck in the format right now. So, you know, for your average ranked ladder experience, these two are just kind of in flux. But that's kind of what you can expect, I think, for the current meta. So, really like this. Who knows? Anyway, I think that's going to do it for now. Thank you so very much for watching this tier list video. Always fun to talk about the current meta. Of course, we do have a new selection pack coming up, I think, next week sometime. So we'll definitely revisit the tier list once that pack is settled and we have a good idea of not only what's in it, but how much those cards are affecting the new meta. So that's going to do it for now, though. Thanks for watching till the end again. It's a really great way to support both myself and any smaller YouTube channel. But for now, that'll do it. So let's move on to the outro and thank our YouTube members and Patreon subscribers. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which by the way is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early, as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.